Welcome to this recorded webinar, Accessing 2020 Island Areas Censuses Demographic Profiles on data.census.gov. My name is Tyson Weister, and I work as a survey statistician on the communications team for data.census.gov. The primary purpose of the webinar is for you to be able to navigate data.census.gov to access the demographic profiles for island areas, which were released on October 20th, 2022. Before we show you how to access the data, we will provide a brief introduction to the Island Areas Censuses data, including the topics and geographies covered in the demographic profiles. Then, we'll provide a live demonstration of data.census.gov. Through this demo, you will learn a variety of search strategies to access the demographic profiles in a table format, as well as tips and tricks to map and download the data. Finally, we'll wrap up with resources to learn more and talk about ways to stay in touch. To get started, let's briefly discuss what are the demographic profiles for island areas. The U.S. Census Bureau conducts the Island Areas Censuses, or IAC, in partnership with the governments of American Samoa, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands to comply with the legal requirements set forth in Title 13 of the United States Code and to meet the specific data needs of the island areas. The 2020 census counted people living in the U.S. island areas using a long-form questionnaire. Other surveys, such as the American Community Survey or ACS, are not conducted in the island areas. Therefore, the Census Bureau used a long-form questionnaire to meet the island area's data needs for demographic, social, economic, and housing unit information. This long-form questionnaire was similar to the ACS questionnaire used in the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. This webinar will focus on one of the data products from the island area censuses, the demographic profiles. These profiles provide broad social, economic, housing, and demographic statistics for each island area down to the place and county subdivision level. We'll go into more detail about the topics and geographies included in just a moment. The demographic profiles are the first release of 2020 Island Area Censuses data on the Census Bureau's primary dissemination platform, data.census.gov. In this webinar, you will learn how user-friendly it is to access the data using our platform. As a note, the same set of data are also available through the Legacy File Transfer Protocol or FTP site, but today we will focus on using data.census.gov. In terms of content, the demographic profiles provide data on over 50 population and housing topics shown on screen. This includes data on demographic characteristics such as age, sex, race, and Hispanic origin, social characteristics including educational attainment, language spoken at home, and disability status, economic characteristics such as labor force status, commuting, and income and poverty status in 2019, and housing characteristics to include tenure or home ownership status, gross rent, and computer and internet use. Visit the link provided to access the list of topics for each IAC data product. The 2020 IAC demographic profiles are available for 5 different types of geographic areas or summary levels: state, county, county subdivision, estate, and place. This means you can access data for American Samoa, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and a handful of smaller geographies within each of these island areas. Depending on which island area you're accessing the data for, these smaller areas may be known as districts, islands, municipalities, counties, election districts, census subdistricts, villages, census designated places or CDPs, and towns. Visit the link to access the summary level hierarchy chart in the technical documentation for more details. Please note that the estate geographic summary level is unique to the U.S. Virgin Islands and only available for that island area. With that background information about the demographic profiles, let's show you just how easy it is to access them using the Census Bureau's primary platform on data.census.gov. What we have planned is to show 3 different examples. This will show you a variety of ways to search for the profiles, as well as different geographies you can access. And then we'll also touch on different functionality of the site, including how to download and map the data. To get started, let's do a simple example showing you how to search by dataset. We'll pull up all 4 demographic profiles for Guam. First, you'll want to go to data.census.gov. In your address bar, we do recommend using Google Chrome for the best speed and performance. And once you get to the landing page, what we're going to focus on today is what's called the advanced search. We also call them filters. And what I love about this search method is it allows you to very precisely select your search criteria. Also very easy to click through and see the available options. So here we're going to click Advanced Search. On the left-hand side, you'll see a phrase, Find a Filter. And there's some primary categories. We're going to be clicking through those, looking for a checkbox as a final selection. Any words or phrases we see with a folder or without a checkbox means we're going to get more detailed options to choose from. For this first example, I'm going to start with my geography and select Guam. So here I'll click Geography on the left. We get the most common geographies at the top and an alphabetized list of all geographies included below. We're going to click here on State, which will give us state and state equivalent checkboxes to choose from. Scrolling down, we'll see the option for Guam. So I'll click Guam or mark the checkbox, and we know that's a final selection. In the upper left, we see that filter for Guam. Next, we'll choose the survey filter for the demographic profiles. So on the left-hand side, click Surveys. Notice it flashed very briefly with all possible options, then narrowed down very quickly to the 3 folders that are compatible with our geography selection for Guam. In this case, I'll click Decennial Census of Island Areas. Then you see the option Guam Demographic Profile. We'll mark the checkbox for that profile. As a note, each island area does have their own demographic profile dataset filter in the advanced search. With those few clicks, we have our geography as well as our dataset. We'll click the search button in the lower right, then click the Tables tab at the top of the page. And with those few steps, we've been able to access the 4 demographic profiles available for this geography. You can see there's demographic, social, economic, and housing characteristics available to you. As you click between the different table titles in this list of results, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice your table is being updated to show you the data available. At the top of the screen, there are a couple of panels, the filter panel and the results panel for you. Those are collapsible to you when you're done using them. If you'd like to devote more space on your screen, you can click the chevrons at the top or the icons to hide them from your view. So I just want to take a moment to browse some of the information that's available in this specific profile, just so you get a sense of the types of information that are contained. At the top, do know that you're getting data from the Decennial Census of Island Areas. It will also show you in the header the table ID, DP4, and the table title, Selected Housing Characteristics. You'll also see the product drop-down menu. Here we're looking at 2020 Decennial Census of Island Areas, Guam Demographic Profile. And then looking to the columns of the table, we see our geography, Guam, in the column at the top. There's a column for number and a column for percent. And on the left-hand side, we see the different data rows. There are different sections of this table. The first is they're all in all capital letters. Housing occupancy is the first one. As you scroll down, you'll see other sections of this table. For instance, housing tenure. So let's take a moment just to review some of the data contained in this section. We can see, as an example, there were 43,381 occupied housing units in Guam based on the 2020 decennial census of island areas. Out of that number, we can see 52% of those housing units were occupied by the owner, and 48% of those housing units were renter occupied. As we scroll down, notice additional topics related to housing included in this table: number of units in the structure, the year the home was built, how many rooms or bedrooms the home has, and many more options as you scroll down. And again, on the left-hand side, when you want to go to those table results, you can click between the titles and access those detailed topics that we showed on the slide for you earlier, all in these 4 tables. Moving on to our next example, I wanted to show you how to select more detailed geographies, as well as some tips and tricks to help you select those geographies on the site. We'll also show you how to download and map the data in this example. We'll be focusing on looking at the percent of the population with a bachelor's degree or higher for all county subdivisions or subdistricts, as they're called, in the United States Virgin Islands. So going back to the site here, we're going to click the U.S. Census logo in the upper left. That's always going to take you back to the landing page and let you start with a fresh search. And once again, we'll be using the advanced search. So we'll click that beneath the single search bar. Once you're familiar with the survey filter options for demographic profiles, in some cases you may find it helpful to select your profile filter first. We're going to show you why here by clicking on the left-hand side where it says Surveys. We know to go to Decennial Census of Island Areas. And then we wanted the United States Virgin Islands demographic profile. Do remember each island area has its own profile. We'll talk more about that at the very end. For now, we'll go ahead and click U.S. Virgin Islands Demographic Profile. Next, we'll go ahead and select our geography. On the left-hand side, I'll click Geography. Now, there are over 200 levels of geography you can access data for, generally speaking, on our site, depending on different surveys and products that you're looking at. We mentioned earlier that this particular product, the demographic profiles, are available for up to 5 levels of geographies, or summary levels as we call them. Once you'd like to narrow down the list of geographic types according to the data set, if you select your data set first and then click the Summary Levels tab, rather than showing you all possible options, this is a way that you can leverage the site to show you just the geographic areas that are compatible with your data set. From here, we'll go ahead and follow the prompts. I'm going to click on 060, County Subdivision. Notice this is also narrowing down rather than giving us all of the list of states. It's giving us just the folder for United States Virgin Islands that's compatible with our data set. We'll click the folder. Then we can drill into more detailed options if we'd like to select a single county subdivision. For my purposes, I actually want to select all county subdivisions in the United States Virgin Islands, so I'm going to click that checkbox at the top. And here we have our data set and our geography filters in the upper left. So different ways you can go about doing this. I'm going to go ahead and click, just like before, the search button in the lower right. Then click Tables at the top. Using that, we were able to get to the 4 table results from the demographic profiles. Again, there's demographic, social, economic, and housing characteristics. We're looking for educational attainment data, which is part of the social characteristics profile. So clicking DP2, selected social characteristics, we'll take a look at the data in this table. Notice our columns have more than one geography. So as you scroll to the right of the table, you're getting data for all of the subdistricts in the U.S. Virgin Islands. On the left-hand side, we can see the first topic for this table is school enrollment, and we scroll down a bit and see the educational attainment data. So let's take a look at some of this data. and make sense of what we're seeing on screen. It's providing this data for the population 25 years and over that live in households. First, it's giving us the highest level of educational attainment that population has received. It's giving us the total number of people and the corresponding percents. And as you scroll towards the very bottom of this section of the table, we will find what we're looking for, which is bachelor's degree or higher. We can see, as an example, in Anna's Hope Village Subdistrict, 724 people aged 25 years and over in households have a bachelor's degree or higher, which equates to 28.7% of that population group. Now, once you've gone through the steps to find data that you're interested in, you maybe want to save your results and work with it later. We want to show you a couple ways you can do that. Then I'm going to show you how to map the data on the site. One way that you can save your results at the very top is the URL in your address bar. You can copy that, save it, and when you visit it later or share it with a colleague, it's going to take you to that same exact table with your same geography selection. So notice we're clicked into DP2 and your geographies are still here in the columns. Other ways that you can save the data, if you want something that looks similar to what you see on screen, you want to choose the Excel or CSV buttons. I'm going to click the Excel output here just to show you briefly what it looks like. Because I'm using Chrome in the lower left, you'll see that file. So we'll go ahead and open up the Excel option. First tab is information, so it will include the table ID, source statement, a web address to get you back to the table, as well as some notes related to the table. And the tab to the right of that will say data. It's probably what you're most interested in. Notice that this looks very similar to what we were seeing on screen with our geographies in the columns. There's the number and percent columns. On the left-hand side, we see readable labels that are indented and the information similar to what we saw on screen. In contrast, if you wanted to work with this data in your own software, we would recommend the zip file format. And I do want to take a moment just to show you what that output looks like so you can see which one will meet your needs best. The first step is to click the zip button at the top of the table. And then you'll click download.csv. So in the lower right of your screen, you'll see a progress bar that will load up to 100%. And then you'll get the zip file. I'm going to click here in the lower left of my screen in order to open that up. For each table that you chose to download during that process, when you open the zip file, you'll see 3 sets of files according to each table. The one that we want to open up is data.csv. So that just means it's going to give you the data as well as the labels that go along with the data. And we'll give that just a second here to load up on screen for us. And to expand some of these key columns, just want to show you as you're looking at this data, you can see each geography, rather than being in the columns, they have their own row. As you follow the row across, all of the estimates that you saw on the table display on data.census.gov are here in a flat file format, which means it doesn't have any special formatting or indentation. And just want to take a moment here to show you some of the data that we were looking at earlier. If you go to the columns in this table, column AG in this particular file output is one of the numbers that we saw on screen. It's the educational attainment, population 25 years and over in households, bachelor's degree or higher. Remember, there were 724 people in that first subdistrict. That's what we're seeing in this column. And the variable label, DP2, is the table ID. 0016 is the 16th row of data. And C means that it's giving you data for the total number. Your collection of C variables with the total numbers will be towards the left of this file output. There will be, as you scroll through, a column ending in P for percent, which gives you the corresponding percentage. Remember, it was 28.7% for our first geography that we saw on the table display. So now that we've shown you this download output, we wanted to go back to the site here. I'm going to open up Chrome. And the last thing we wanted to do was show you how to create a map on the site. Once you've gotten to this point, very nice to have that information in a download output or be able to see the data on screen across your different geographies. The map will let you visually digest this information across all of your geographic areas. The next step is to click the Maps tab at the very top of the table. First, you'll want to make sure on the left-hand side that you're clicked into the table that contains the data you want to map out. Here you can see we're clicked into DP2, Selected Social Characteristics. Then you'll want to take a look at the screen. Make sure that your map is set here to the county subdivision level. You'll also want to zoom in to your geography. You may need to manually adjust where your area on your map is or your zoom level. And you can see the county subdivision is also reflected in the layer when you click that button. So those are the primary steps you'll want to do. The last thing is to tell the site out of all of the variables in that data table, which one do you want reflected on your map? And it's very easy to edit this. Just click the variables button in the upper left. Then click the drop-down menu at the top. And you'll be able to sort through this information according to the way the table was organized in the rows and columns. Remember, there was an educational attainment section of the table. Scrolling down, here I'll click Educational Attainment, population 25 years and over in households, bachelor's degree or higher, %. Once we've clicked that, notice that our map was working to update in the background. On the left-hand side, we're seeing percentages in our legend. From here, you can zoom in on your map and see that the sub-districts with darker shades of blue have higher % of their population 25 years and over in households who have a bachelor's degree or higher. You can also zoom in further and click on an individual sub-district and see the data for that particular area. As an example, we can see in East End sub-district, 75% is the bachelor's degree or higher number. And moving on to our last example, wanted to show you more generally how to search by topic filter without having to specify the specific demographic profile. For this example, we'll use income in Saipan municipality in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Back to the live site, I'll click the U.S. Census logo in the upper left, clear us out, start us fresh, and just like before, we'll use the advanced search. On the left-hand side, I'll select my geography first by clicking Geography. Then I'll click on County. We'll go to Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and then choose Saipan Municipality, Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Once we mark the checkbox in the upper left, we see our geography filter. And again, as a reminder, if you're not sure which geographic level to choose from, we do encourage you to visit the technical documentation to learn more about what types of geographies are classified as county or county subdivision, etc. Now that we have our geography selection, I did want to click Topics on the left-hand side, and I'm going to choose the income filter. Here we'll click first the folder, Income and Poverty. Then I'll choose the folder, Income and Earnings, and then choose the checkbox, Income, Households, Families, Individuals. You may see more than one relevant checkbox. We recommend make your first best guess and choose just one at a time. In the upper left, we see our geography and topic filter. I'll go ahead and click the search button in the lower right to run that search, and then click the Tables tab at the top. What you'll notice here is our first result, DP3, Selected Economic Characteristics. This takes us to the specific demographic profile table that has income data. We'll take a look at this data on the right-hand side of our screen. We see our geography in the column, and then the different sections, employment status, place of work, commuting to work. I'm going to scroll down until I get to the income section of this particular table. It shows income in 2019 dollars for households. Then we're getting income breakouts, the number and the corresponding percents. This table also has a line for median household income and mean household income. So as an example, we can see that in 2019 dollars, median household income was $31,220. When you use this search method to search by topic, you'll notice that the 2020 demographic profiles will show up in the first few table results. Tables from the most recent years do tend to appear at the top of your list of table results, and older tables tend to appear near the bottom of the list. This means that when more tables are released from the Island Areas Censuses in the future, you will be able to use this exact same search method to access the new tables, which will also appear near the top of the list once they are released. As of now, you can also view 128 other income tables for Saipan Municipality. I'm going to go ahead and scroll through and show you some of these different tables. And these include data from the 2010 and 2000 censuses. So scrolling down here, I'll click as an example, PBG 48, household income in 2009, and you can view some of these data, which are based on the 2010 decennial census of island areas. As a note, some universe statements have been updated with the 2020 data release. You will see the universe statements at the header at the top of your table or in the data rows of your table. Please be aware that the Census Bureau does not recommend comparing data over time. If the universe statement has changed, please see the 2020 Island Area Census technical documentation for more details on this. To learn more about data from the 2020 Island Areas Censuses, we encourage you to check out our online materials. On the left is a link to the technical documentation to help you make the most of understanding the demographic profiles. It includes table and topic lists, subject definitions, code lists, geographic reference materials, and instructions to help you understand the layout of the files in the File Transfer Protocol site. Again, this FTP site is an additional access point that contains the same data and geographic availability provided through the 4 demographic profiles on data.census.gov. On the right is a link to the 2020 Island Areas Censuses Data Products webpage. This page will help you understand what data are currently available and what data are planned for future release, along with tentative release timelines. In future releases, you can look forward to even more detail by topic, geography, and more cross-tabulations compared to what the demographic profiles provide. And if you'd like to learn more about accessing 2020 Island Areas Censuses data on data.census.gov, we have 2 videos put together that focus specifically on these profiles. On the left-hand side, you'll see a video on accessing the data in general on data.census.gov. The video on the right side of the screen will focus on showing you how to export, download, and access the FTP links using data.census.gov. We encourage you to check these videos out as an additional supplemental resource and share them with interested data users. And one thing that we wanted to cover while discussing accessing the data on data.census.gov. In this webinar today, we use search strategies to access information for one island area at a time. We encourage you to visit the site and use that search method as you're working through the site. You do have the option to select multiple geographies across different island areas. I just want to point out how the site behaves when that happens here if you choose that option. Notice this screenshot shows in the upper left I've selected American Samoa, Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, and the United States Virgin Islands as geography filters. If you select more than one island area and start to view the tables, notice that you'll only see data for one island area at a time. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see there's one column for United States Virgin Islands and nothing to the right of it. The reason, again, for this is that each of the island areas have their own profile dataset links in data.census.gov and those own filters. So if you'd like to see these data across your different geography selections, all you would need to do is click the product drop-down menu at the top of your table and switch to the different demographic profile products for each of the island areas. Now let's wrap up with ways to stay in touch. First, we'd like to invite you to sign up for data.census.gov email updates. When you visit the link, you'll be able to subscribe to those updates. This will allow you to get access to our monthly newsletters that will tell you about the latest system enhancements, educational opportunities, and data releases to help you make the most of data.census.gov. We also encourage you to let us know your feedback on how we can make the site work better. Simply click the feedback link or shoot us an email at census.data@census.gov. Tell us how we can make your experience better on the site. We do continuously improve the site based on comments from data users. And as we wrap up, we'd like to invite you to check out our full set of educational materials on data.census.gov. Visit the link in the upper left or click the help link on the landing page of data.census.gov. This provides access to our short videos, recorded webinars, guided workshops, PDFs with step-by-step instructions, answers to your FAQs, and more. We also encourage you to let us know what questions you have about accessing Island Areas Censuses data on data.census.gov. If you're a member of the media, please contact us at pio@census.gov. All other users may email us at census.data@census.gov. And finally, if you'd like to set up a special data.census.gov training for your organization, please email us using the email address on the bottom of the screen. Once again, thank you for tuning in to this recorded webinar, and we hope to stay in touch with you.